so we've been busy in the garage over the past couple weeks or so, a bunch of different projects going on. A couple weeks ago, I picked up a set of wheels that came off an old camper, and we're gonna ultimately use them for the horse trailer. I already got new tires on them. The wheels that we got on them, they're really kind of, they're getting oxidized. All the clear coat was flaking off. It was a real pain to strip them or sand through them, and in the meantime, I've been kind of eyeballing being able to pick up a cabinet sandblaster, and the right deal happened to happen, so we have a new project. A very large cabinet sandblaster. That's a 16-inch wheel. For reference, you can easily fit 2 wheels in there and sandblast them. Got it for a good deal, got it locally, got a bunch of processed corn cob, which I don't know what I'm gonna do with, and it's funny to say. But this thing needs a little bit of TLC to get situated, trying to get these wheels done so that we can get working on Zach's truck, get that ready for the summer. But let's start getting this a little bit cleaned up. We're gonna replace some of the hoses and get it back into its glory stages. So, went shopping on Big Mastercar yesterday, got the stuff today before I got home at work. Almost as good as Amazon Prime, but they actually have mechanical related stuff. So I got some miscellaneous Pushlock style fittings. I got Pushlock hose already at the house, so we'll use that. The first thing that we're gonna do is use a 3/8 bulkhead fitting and get rid of this jerry rig contraption that we have going on there. We're gonna replace all the hoses. We did test this out the other day, functionality wise, it works good. The foot pedal's a little sticky. We're gonna get rid of that and just go with a direct air fitting into it because the sprayer does have its own fitting. As you can see, this hose has a mind of its own, which is not, convenient when you're trying to blast. So that's what's going to get replaced. We have a new suction line here as well that'll go onto the gun. And then for testing purposes, we ended up just using some duct tape to secure the hose down in place. We're going to be doing a much better job and something more professional and long-term than duct tape. So first thing we're going to do is rip all these old lines out and get this bulkhead fitting installed, and we can start getting the hoses in. Plan B. Plan B. Duct tape, not recommended for sandblasting. Comes grip tape. So we got the hole drilled in the side of the cabin for the bulkhead fitting. Bulkhead's a really nice, clean way to get plumbing through a panel where you don't have to worry about like a grommet where it's loose. It gives a really nice, secure connection. So we're gonna use some Blue Monster Teflon tape and get all these fittings pre-assembled, put the bulkhead in. We did already double check to make sure that the bulkhead can fit with this 90-degree fitting installed. All pre-assembled, we'll get this put in place.
All right, go. Hit him with what happened, dude.
All right, so like I said, the bulkhead fitting with the 90 does fit through the hole that we drilled. However, the washer fits, the nut does not fit. So here we are with a bunch of parts again. Try this again. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna leave that loose for now until I get the 90 installed, and that way I can orientate the bulkhead, tighten that up in place to get the 90 orientated in the direction that makes sense. leaving it loose also allows me to put a ratchet on the bulkhead and spin the bulkhead instead of spinning the fitting. So I'm going to put this pointed up, shooting at this corner, because that's the corner that the grate has the cutout in. Slug that up, don't gotta kill it, and I'll be set. So we'll be able to hook up the air hose directly to the side of the cabinet, nice and easy, and the hose will come directly out of that fitting, pointed up towards the opening, and won't give us any problems. So if you're not familiar with Pushlock style hose, it's usually branded as Pushlock, but it has special barbs. The barbs have a much more aggressive taper to them than your normal fitting, and they usually have this little collar on them. So these fittings do not need to have hose clamps put on them, so it allows for a really nice, clean install, and there's no problem using this hose with shop air pressure, 120, 130 PSI. That's no problem at all. But the trick to get them on, especially when it gets a little bit cooler out, a little bit of dielectric grease, or you can even use a little bit of oil, put some of that on the barb, but then also get yourself a heat gun and give the end of that some heat, and that'll soften it up. So the one thing we found before with the old hose, which was whatever, is that you're moving stuff around, the hose would constantly come out of the sand. So I'm going to use some of these zip tie holders and some nut certs, and we're going to hold the hose along this channel in the bottom down towards the middle, and that'll do two things. Keep the hose down in the material. It won't move around on us, but then it'll also point the hose up towards with the air hose to be able to connect to the gun. So these are just little zip tie holders I've used in the past. Get these from McMaster Car, and I'm just going to kind of lay out 3 of these as what kind of I think makes sense. I'm not going to get real picky, but 3 holes, a drill that I don't know where to put it. Here's this. So the holes are drilled. I'm going to use my pneumatic nut cert tool. I'll probably do a separate video on this at some point. One of my favorite tools that I bought, for sure, worth every penny. Makes nut certs quick and easy, and nut certs are just a really good way to secure stuff. Something like this, sure, you can nut and bolt it, but if you're trying to put a bolt into a piece of square tubing and it's not super structural related, nut cert is great because it gives it some good thread engagement. So this thing's simple. It's got forward and reverse. You stick it in the hole that you drilled, size to the outside of the fitting, and press the trigger, and that's all there is to it. Alright, so the nut certs are installed. You can use some anti-seize on the bolts, just because that's what I do. It's sandy, we'll go with that. Nice T-handle, and we'll get these brackets installed. So this is the hose that we got from McMaster. Nice soft flexible hose. 5/8 ID is what I did because that's what matches the spray nozzle that we have. Some of the other ones that came with the one I bought, it had 1/2 inch, but we did some testing the other day when we had it running and found that this particular nozzle worked really good, so that's one we're going to stick with. The end of the hose that's in the sand, I'm going to cut a nice little angle on it. That's just going to help allow it to siphon and funnel through. I forgot to bring zip ties over, so we'll grab that and get this all zip tied up in place. you've been watching the channel for a while, you know I'm a big fan of these flush cut zip ties, zip tie cutters. So you know that we're going to use those on that. Nice and flush, not going to cut yourself. So completely overkill, but figure give it a shot. I got this nice swivel fitting that'll, one, allow the hose to rotate within, but also give it some flexibility. So obviously sand getting packed into that joint is not going to be a good idea. So I just wiped down the outside with some acetone. I got a piece of heat shrink tubing, and the plan is to slide the heat shrink tubing over top of it and heat shrink both ends, but not in the middle, and that'll still give it some flexibility. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's worth a shot. Came up pretty good. I didn't really want to shrink the inside, but it kind of worked. It's still somewhat flexible. It's not going to rotate, which is okay, but it'll give a little give. We'll see what happens. So we kind of figured that make the hose long enough to reach the far corner. Maybe too long for right now, but you can make the hose shorter easier than you can make it longer. So that's what we're going to start with. Got them both cut to the same length. I'm probably going to throw some zip ties on these just to hold them together, or see if I have some other wrap laying around that I can put on them. Grease. Look at that. Everything's all hooked up. That feels way nicer. Everything's super flexible compared to, that's not even the right hose. The other hose, which you saw before, that was not flexible at all. This one moves around nice. It's not going to limit any of your mobility within the cabinet. Should work out a lot better. So next thing that we're going to do is that grate that was on top here is a little bit undersized. So in the meantime, we're just going to put some zip ties in it to hold it in place long term. I'll get some new mesh and we'll make a new grate. But that was getting kind of to be a pain in the butt. You put the wheel in, the whole thing would fall in. Alright, change of plans. Found some of this 1-inch aluminum stock kicking around. One piece is actually the perfect length. So I'm going to rivet this to the bottom side. And part of the issue is that it's plastic, so there's some flexibility of it. So we'll be able to rivet this in place tight, be underneath, and then we could just wrap a quick zip tie around the main support here and around that bar to make sure that it stays in place. And if you do need to pull this grate out to clean it or whatever, it's a couple zip ties and it's not really a big deal. overall, worked really good. The handle feels much nicer now that you can actually move it around. You can see we got that section blasted in probably less than 2 minutes worth of work. So the next things that we're going to do for this is get some more lights put in, because this isn't going to cut it, and the one light that's there isn't that great. Put another couple pieces of aluminum down to support the bed. It does need a new pair of gloves at some point, but right now it's perfectly set up, halfway decent to be able to get these wheels blasted. So we're going to get these wheels blasted and be on the lookout for a video of these getting painted and then ultimately end up get put on the horse trailer. So thanks for watching. We'll see you later.